Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom podcast. Today, we continue our comic book movie journey through film with Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie was released on May 1st, 2015, written by Joss Whedon and directed by Joss Whedon. Just a full Whedon picture here.
Mm.
Guys suck. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And a first timer on the podcast joining us for this movie, I got Peyton Seiz. What's up, bud?
Not a whole lot. How you doing?
Oh, I'm very good, and I'm glad to have you. Since you are our guest, it is your honor to present us overall. How you feeling about Avengers: Age of Ultron? How long had it been since you watched the movie, and
Man,
how are
I
you feeling
think
about it?
I watched Age of Ultron last year, and then since then it was right when it came out. But watching it again today, kind of went back through it and watched a little bit smaller of the details. And out of all the Avengers movies, I would say it wasn't the best out of all of them, in my opinion. That's my opinion, though.
No, I tend to agree. I don't think it's the best, um, but I do have a soft spot for it. I remember I saw this in 2015. In theaters, and it was one of those just kind of at that point I might be 15, but I haven't seen a lot of blockbuster movies come that point with giant visual effects and big like world implicating action,
Yeah, it was
and
a
so that
first of its
stuff is
kind.
is really cool to see on
Right.
screen. Joe, I know you've got a particular soft spot for this movie. How
Ooh.
are you feeling?
Well, I mean, the birth of two of my favorite characters in the MCU in total come from this movie, so it's already got that going for it,
Mm.
and I have liked it more than I think the average person. I always remember liking this one more than people normally, and saying like it got a lot of hate that I don't understand why it did,
Mm.
at the time, and people would always say that like Ultron is not really that good of a villain, that like when he stacks up to the rest of the villains in the MCU, he doesn't really hold up to the rest. But and I don't really see that. I don't know. I think like, I mean, Thanos is pretty unbeatable. I mean, they built that man up for years and years and years. But as far as like a single movie villain goes, which is all Ultron is, I put him like pretty near the top in my opinion.
Mm.
But no, and I found like a newfound respect on this watch. Like I don't think it is like really that bad at all. I think like there are some scenes that are actually really strong at like when it comes like for a Marvel movie. Like it actually got me like not super emotional, but more emotional than the average Marvel movie would.
Mm.
So
No, I tend to agree, when Peyton was talking about, versus the other Avengers movies.
mhm.
This is either 2 or 3 for me out of the 4 that exist.
Yes.
Um, I think the first one is it's crazy to say because the first one is solid. The first one is comfortably 4th for me.
Yeah.
I think that is my least favorite Avengers movie. I like
Mhm.
it. I enjoy it. I have a great time with it. Uh, but, it's kinda between this and Endgame for that 2nd and 3rd, and then my favorite's Infinity War. I love Infinity War, so obviously we'll get to those later on, but, that was how I felt coming into this, and that is how I feel coming out of it. So, like, my feelings haven't changed a whole lot, upon watching it. I think that there's, uh I if anything, I actually had a little bit more of a Thor: The Dark World syndrome going on, not to that level. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's better than Dark World in pretty much every way. But I've always kind of held this in my head as being just like massively underrated. Like, wow, how has this flown under the radar? What are y'all watching that I'm not seeing? I kind of saw it a little bit more this time. I thought it was fine, and
I
it's fun.
think
It's a
people had
great
to
time.
pay attention more to the storyline going up to it in order to actually understand everything that was going on in the movie. I think that movie, Age of Ultron, really kind of opened up like just the rest of it was kind of giving hints to the rest of the
Oh.
storyline, and nobody was really getting it. For
Oh.
instance, Iron Man, when he had a vision, when he had
Mhm.
that vision from the witch, um, he literally saw his fate in the end. in the end of Endgame,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mhm.
is kind of crazy. And you know that movie also opened up the plot to Ragnarok. That's the reason why Hulk left from the Quinjet. And so I think
Mhm.
that movie was definitely used very, very well into um, the Marvel community as a whole, just springing up a bunch of movies after that.
Yeah.
Um,
No, 100%.
but I really
100%.
thought the movie was great. There was some awesome scenes, very, very nice. Um, Little bits of comedy in there that was really, really nice. But I think for me, the reason why I said it wasn't the best, in my opinion, was because of Ultron. The villain, to me, wasn't like big.
Mm.
It wasn't just huge for me, but I understood how everything was going, I guess.
No, I get you. I get you. Yeah, I know, Joe. I know you love Ultron, so this is gonna be
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be a tough sell. I'm not as impressed with James Spader as I have been in
Oh.
the past.
I think
I'm not the voice
I
of
love his voice,
Ultron.
though.
I
I love his
actually will agree with you here. Whenever I watch this before, I don't even know when the last time I watched it, but I put in my favorites on our Excel sheet preemptively to see if I agreed with them when I came back. And my preemptive performance was Spader as Ultron, and I don't think so. I don't think he earns the performance. I think I might give him character because I do love him so much. But then it leaves another guy that I have to. I don't know. I'm trying to really give love to my boys, on this
Mm.
movie a little bit, but
Yeah, Vision and
uh,
Ultron. Joe is huge on Vision and
yeah,
Ultron,
I,
Peyton,
I will.
if you aren't.
I will give you though. Spader, I thought had more of a presence than I remembered. He does great in his monologues. Like his monologues are
He does.
awesome, and I think they're great. But I did in my head like think that I remembered much more of a presence that he had like over the entire movie. Like, but I think when he's not on screen, you're not really thinking about him, and that's why he
I'll also
kind of falls.
I'll I'll grant him this also, much funnier than I remember.
Hmm.
A
Yes.
lot of jokes from Ultron, which tonally can kind of muddy the waters, but
Yeah.
I do think that, like, whenever Hulk goes and whacks him out of the fucking like, knocks the shit out of him and he goes flying, and right before that he goes, with the benefit of hindsight, and then Hulk knocks the shit out of him. Like that's a little goofy. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
funny, and it is awkward in the middle of the climax of the movie to go ahead and drop that there. But I do appreciate the kind of contrast they create between not only Ultron and Vision, but Ultron and Tony. Like how
Mm.
Ultron wants so badly to not be influenced by Tony Stark, his creator, but cannot help at every turn but to take Tony's words and kind of twist them to the most extreme meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool to see. Eh, so I end up kind of agreeing with you both. I like Ultron. I personally do. I think he is one of my favorite MCU villains. But to grant Peyton's point some credence as well, it was not everything I wanted it to be and more as I recalled. I think you've been
Mm.
rubbing off on me to an extent in your love for Ultron, so
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot. No, but that who did you end up going with for your performance if you didn't go Spader?
Man. Well, I think that's the one that's kind of up in the air. Because I
It
think
really is. No idea.
character. I know who I'm going with, kind of for sure, and I don't want to give him the performance as well. I don't really want to double. I don't think he really earned it. Um,
No.
but I think the person I noticed the most, I guess that, man, it's tough on this one. Maybe Scarlett Johansson is one thought that I'm having. Whenever she's talking with Bruce, but like I don't know that stuff is kind of a little lazily written, I guess. But what Scarlett Johansson did with it was
She
really
does good.
really
She
good.
does very yeah.
Um, but I don't know. No single performance really stood out like crazy. Um,
No, it doesn't actually at all, and I'm gonna credit Joss Whedon with this. There's a sameness, there's a
mm,
levelness to every single person in this movie, which does make James Spader as Ultron stand out. Um, but even he gets infected by that sameness. Like I said, with that, with those, with the little bit of
Mm.
comedy bits, like they're fine, and I think they're funny, and I enjoy a lot of it. Uh, but that is a really good sign of your director kind of infiltrating every aspect of every performance because they all feel the same. Like in terms of performance, there are obviously distinct characterizations, but within those characterizations, it's really level. Peyton, who'd you end up going with for your performance here?
Dude, Scarlett Johansson, hands down.
Mm,
She, to me, she just had the most emotion on screen compared to any other Avenger.
mm,
Other than some of the emotions during the visions that they were given.
mm,
Um, but just kind of, I don't necessarily, like you were saying, they were all just kind of level planed. Going back through that whole movie, I was, that last question I had was favorite performance, and just I couldn't even pick one until the end of the movie because it was just everything was just kind of the same level. And I felt like if I picked somebody, it would be hard to fight for them to be, yeah, they're for sure the
Mhm.
best person in this movie because it was just kind of all the same. But if I had to absolutely pick one, it'd be Scarlett Johansson.
I
I like
appreciate
that.
that choice. That's she's always a good one too. I think that she's been in the Avengers, Iron Man 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
and now this, I think, as far as MCU appearances, and I'm pretty sure she's gotten a nod from somebody in every single movie she's been in. So, like,
Yeah.
she's definitely one of the best performers in the MCU and definitely one of the best performers in this movie. I ended up going with the person who is her scene partner most of the time. I ended up going Mark Ruffalo, as Bruce Banner. Um, I just thought that I mentioned a little bit ago that the characterizations are very distinct, but like we said, the performances within them are pretty level.
Hmm.
I think that what Ruffalo manages to do with Bruce kind of does separate him from the pack to an extent.
Mhm.
And it's not that he does get to do a serious deep dive of emotion or anything. He gets a little bit, he gets a little bit, but he gets to do this the whenever he's got the one of my favorite product placements in all of the MCU, I always remember whenever he's got the Beats headphones on in the Quinjet, and he's sitting there, and like it's real emphasis on the B on the headphones.
Uh-huh.
But what he's doing during that moment is actually very, very well done. It's post this first opening battle, which is epic, by the way. Absolutely love that opening battle. I think it's so cool. But, he's, like, in a cold sweat, and he's not feeling good, and he like it's fascinating to see what the Hulk does to him, and I think with a different actor, maybe we don't see it to that extent. It's, so I went Ruffalo. I like Mark
Hmm.
Ruffalo a lot, and I think that,
All right.
uh, for a movie that does so meh with Hulk and with Black Widow, for them to still rise above the pack, basically, performance-wise, I think
Mm.
speaks to their talent as actors. So I did
Yeah.
appreciate that. I thought that it was so shoehorned in here, man.
Oh, their
So
like
fucking
relationship? Yeah, it
yeah.
was I don't know. It was just rough. Like I guess there's stuff that's happened off screen that we haven't seen, but that's not like enough to
No,
I don't
and
know.
there are elements, like,
It was like
there's
they were trying
really
to show romance, but they're like I wasn't seeing it. Does that make sense?
No. No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and
And
their shared
this is something that I will say is negative about Ruffalo and Johansson is that their chemistry is fucking negative.
yeah,
Like
they
it
just
is
don't.
non-existent.
They don't have
They
it.
were not vibing. Uh, like even in those like tiny little moments between Johansson and Chris Evans, you're feeling the palpative tension between them. They mentioned the flirting. Like Chris Evans had more chemistry with Mark Ruffalo. Robert Downey Jr. had more chemistry with
I
Mark
think
Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett Johansson had the least chemistry out of any pair in the entire movie, and they're the only
Mhm.
couple in the entire movie. Is
It's
that right?
fascinating.
Is that right?
Not
Has
necessarily.
there
Well,
been
not
any other couple?
necessarily. If I almost over Scarlett Johansson, I almost picked Jeremy Renner because you actually got to see his life a
I
little bit.
and that's why I was considering him for
And him and his
character.
wife, their connection actually seemed legit and
Mhm.
That's
way
true.
better than
Okay,
any
you're
other
right.
relationship in the whole movie.
There was another couple, and they actually
Yes.
and it was actually
And
done
it
very
works
well.
perfect.
Like, yeah, like,
Uh,
this made Hawkeye actually kinda cool, you know, like, I don't
Yeah, Amos
really
Fixin
ever
is
give a
my
shit
favorite.
about Hawkeye. I don't know, like, I'm sorry. Oh, you like Hawkeye as your favorite? I'm really
No,
sorry.
no, just for
Um,
this movie, favorite character for
okay, I
just
like
this
that.
movie was just
No.
Hawkeye because it actually showed his life.
mm,
In any movie prior, you never even knew what the dude was doing off screen.
I
You
like
never knew.
that.
that is spot fucking on. It is also why I went with Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton for my
See?
character as well. Um,
Mm,
which to those who have been longtime listeners of this podcast
that's
will be
yeah.
floored by my decision to go with Hawkeye as my favorite character. Uh I've been a notorious Hawkeye hater, and I mostly because I haven't been a big fan of Jeremy Renner, and it's bled through into my perception of Clint Barton. But I've become a much bigger fan of Hawkeye in comics. I love Hawkeye in comics, and this is the closest they ever get to faithfully adapting that character. Uh, the Whedonisms, the jokiness and whenever he's sitting on the couch and he's like, "He so whoever be worthy shall wield the power of Thor." Like
Yeah.
that is what Clint Barton is actually like, and he's never like that in
Hmm.
any other movie.
Wow.
Right.
So that's one of those things that
Hmm.
I really, really appreciated about this movie is that Hawkeye felt faithfully adapted for the first time and probably the only time.
He
I think
seems
the Hawkeye
st-
show.
he seemed to stand out, and
He
Mhm.
was kind of the only
just a
standout.
little bit more than anybody in
Hmm.
the whole film. You know, they had that right whenever they introduced the witch, she came in and she put everybody in a lucid dream, besides Hawkeye, because he
Yeah.
That's
had it
true.
before. He knew it was coming,
Okay.
and so that's just why he just rose over all the other characters,
Mhm.
in my opinion,
And
over the
it's
movie.
we're at his safe house. You know, it's his house. It's his
Mhm.
His house, his
home.
family, they never
Um,
even knew he had two
Oh,
kids,
dude,
one on the
and
way.
there's a couple things with the illusions, that there is a lot of heavy implication. A lot of, this is something that I think the Star Wars original trilogy and even to an extent the Star Wars prequel trilogy do really well. The implications of what occurs in the gaps between movies. Like
mm,
the allusions to relationships grown and expanded upon, like something really compelling that happens between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back is the bond between our main three grows immensely. Luke, Han, and Leia. They have been fighting together, they have been rolling together, and it has resulted in an even tighter bond. Now, something that movie does is still show you the romance unfold on screen.
mhm.
You know,
Not just
it
already
still
in it.
lets.
Yeah.
It's not like they're there now. That's just what happened between movies. Now the romance is happening. But the other thing that actually kind of worked with the implication is that Hawkeye has become a de facto level-headed leader of the
The
group.
dad. Yeah, like
I quite liked that. I
mhm.
loved whenever he's sitting in the bedroom and Linda Cardellini, who I fucking love, shout out to Kyler.
Yeah, Kyler gonna
I
love
know
her.
you love
Yep.
Linda Cardellini. Uh
Who doesn't?
Whenever she's
Yep,
like
yep.
rubbing his back and she's like, I'm worried about you. And he's like, what, she says, I look at all those gods and he's like, what, you think they don't need me? And she's like, no, I think they do. And that worries me a lot more,
Mm,
and like, that's such a powerful moment for Clint. Like, I think that he genuinely doesn't get another character moment like that actually hits that way until arguably he's fighting with Black Widow to see who gets to
mm,
kill themselves,
Right.
basically, in Endgame.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Other than that, the
uh,
guy's silent the whole the
Yeah.
whole
mhm.
He does his job. He doesn't
storyline.
miss. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
he's there, but he's
My big
definitely
that was my number one complaint about the Avengers and his appearance in Thor
mm,
is that there's no characterization there.
Mid.
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
I
That's
like
what
exactly.
he's
I like
literally a
that.
mid.
I was going to go Scarlett Johansson for my performance, but now that we do have another nod for her, I think I am comfortable with giving Paul Bettany a nod here because I do think it is actually somewhat impressive to actually play a baby adult that is a robot, but not a robot. You know, and then
I
like
was born yesterday. birthday.
whenever he is born, whenever he he's awake, and like he comes down and looks at Thor, you know, he's like, "Oh damn, you look so fucking cool." Like, and then he copies his cape and his arm little gauntlets and like little things on him. It's like he's like a kid at heart. Like he's like he literally, like, I mean, he says it at the end of the movie, like, "I was born
I was
yesterday."
born.
Like
Yeah.
true. But I mean, I love my boy Vision, and it is who I gave my character nod to as well. It was either
So
gonna
you
be
double,
him.
you're doubling up.
Yeah, it's either gonna be him or Ultron. But at the end of the day, I'd rather go Vision than Ultron all day, every day. Ultron,
Vision's cool, man.
yeah,
I mean, there are very few scenes. Like my favorite scene in the movie is him
mm,
waking up. I
yeah,
think that his waking up, flying to the window, and then the conversation he has with the Avengers thereafter is
mm-hmm.
my favorite scene of the movie. Mostly because it culminates in one of my favorite moments in the MCU where they're like, how can we possibly trust this guy? And he just wields Mjolnir like it's fucking nothing. Like that's
Oh,
so cool. It's such a clean, good way to introduce a character who you immediately know is a good guy. Like it's
mm-hmm.
a brilliant choice. So
Yeah,
I loved and part of that was Paul Bettany's kind of performance of this, like,
I am
the dawning
like,
dawning of consciousness,
yeah.
really. Like
That's
I think it's cool.
I put a lot of lines in here. I think the one I actually will go with is a Vision line. I kind of wanted to give Vision the clean sweep if I could. This is kind of his movie. And I mean, when he does wake up and he says, like, I'm not Ultron. I'm not Jarvis. I am. He just says, I am. He
I
is awoken.
I
Um,
am.
and I don't know. I just like the moment, um, him finally, waking up. I love that they're all arguing. They're like, "Holy fuck, Tony, for real? You're doing this again? Like we just went through this. You just made one murder bot. You're about to make an even more powerful one. What the fuck? Everyone's fighting. Quicksilver unplugs all the shit, and then Thor, just like from the top turnbuckle, just comes in out of nowhere and just like boom, just like, no, we're going. Like Vision
I love it.
has to be born.
I love it.
Um,
I had not realized through rewatching these movies how Thor is basically the decision maker. He
What
just
the fuck?
decides shit.
Yes. I was gonna
Doesn't
ask
care.
this. I was gonna
Just
ask, like,
sends it.
he like, these visions are kind of nuts. Most of the visions for the characters are like
Very
in their
personal.
past, or maybe sometimes their future, like what they will do. But Thor is like seeking out his visions, and like after he has his first one, he like literally goes to Selvig, and then in a cave in the water with candles and shit, and then has like another vision. And it's like,
Mhm.
we're like, like, it's kind of crazy how Thor is like controlling it a little bit, or like it's like they're tapping into something, and it's very
I
weird.
think it's really interesting because I think this is gonna play. I already think I'm gonna spoil this for Infinity War and Endgame. Gonna be pretty damn hard to not go with Thor for at least Infinity War, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
challenges he faces in Endgame are the most
Ooh.
interesting. Uh, but the guilt he feels about failing in Infinity War and how that bleeds through into Endgame, I never realized just how far back that goes. Because he's the first one who discovers an Infinity Stone, basically, like for the gives it to the Collector. Then you got this. He awakens Vision with the Mind Stone. He decides that Vision is worthy of keeping the Mind Stone because he's at the end. He's like, if he can wield Mjolnir, he's cool. And they're like, fine, I guess. Like nobody's gonna argue with that. They're like, sure. So it's just really interesting that through a few of these movies, I think at least half of the Infinity Stones, Thor decides where they are. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
so whenever they end up in Thanos's hands and he wipes out half the universe, of course he feels the most guilty. And I've never really put it together that way. Um,
Man, yeah,
but
this.
regardless, yeah, like, and again, while he's also being this most important and arguably the most cool, um, I can't believe I haven't gone. I I Chris Hemsworth and Thor leave me cold pretty consistently. Um, almost every movie. He's fine. He's solid. He's probably the most steady piece besides Tony in terms of just
Mhm.
like performance and act and
Yeah.
characterization, except Chris Hemsworth isn't Robert Downey Jr.,
He is just
so he's not
cool.
as good.
That's like
Yeah.
Thor, every movie he's cool, and the stuff that he does is like, oh my god, like that dude's he's a god, and you
Yeah.
you get that every time. But yeah, there isn't really anything that
It's not until
makes him.
Ragnarok and
Mhm.
Infinity War and Endgame that I feel like he begins to shine as an actor and as a character really. But
Ragnarok really slingshotted him into
Mhm.
being a very, very good character performance wise
mhm. I tend
in
to
the
agree.
rest of the movies.
Well,
That's
because he's been consistently outshined in
Yeah.
his movies and in the Avengers movies. So I think Ragnarok is the first time he rises to the occasion and becomes like Tom Hiddleston is usually the guy outdoing him, which
mhm.
hey, can't complain. It's Tom Hiddleston. I love me some Loki. Still, like, it is what it is. Um,
Man, god damn it. I thought that I was safe on this one. I thought that no
not
theorizing.
safe.
Um
The
Yeah,
theory is still spinning.
I thought, like this one, there's not a lot of Loki anything. There's, no connections, whatever. No theories can really come of this. I'm going down a whole nother direction now, kind of. It kind of works. It kind of connects to my larger theory a little bit that like each stone is a person, and I kind of wanted to
Hmm.
ask. I think the interesting thing out of this movie, the interesting things that they could work on in the future, would be like, is the Mind Stone the consciousness of a person? Because like when Ultron wakes up, he's like, I was a dream, I was whatever, and that could be like Tony and Bruce's pre-programming, and like it's just what he was before he fully woke up. But Vision, when he wakes up, he's like, no, I am not Ultron. I am not Vision. I am something else completely. Like, is it
I'm not sure. Yeah.
completely a new life form, like born right then and there? Or is there like some ancient, I don't
Yeah.
know,
No,
like a being, like where all this
I think
knowledge comes from,
I
or
think if the Mind Stone comes directly from one being, all of the Infinity Stones would come from one being. I think it would be the
that's fair.
power of one being, the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge of one being, the soul of one being, which honestly doesn't not make sense. Like, there in Marvel Comics, there are larger, celestial bodies, not just celestials, but like, we
Mm-hmm.
meet Eternity in Love and Thunder. Um, and there are literal embodiments of time and space in Marvel Comics. So like it's like
Yeah.
that is a distinct possibility. I think that I think that's a fun idea. I think that's part of why the knowledge it possesses is ancient and that it knows so much
Mm-hmm.
is that like they've existed for all of time. And if that originates from a being or just they just came to be, I don't know. It's interesting to think about
And
though.
I
That's a fun part of the
because
theory.
where it starts to fall apart is like when I started to think of like who could it be, and I'm like, if it is someone, maybe their personality like falls through a little bit into Ultron and into Vision or into whoever, but like Ultron really really hates Tony, and that kind of confused me. Like, why would you like? Does he hate him just inherently? Like it's his creator and he like does what Tony says almost every time. So it's like it's weird that he has this like extreme hatred for Tony specifically. So I was
I
wondering like all the people that Tony has affected, and like it could be in the future cuz like say it's Thanos. Like Thanos hates Tony way more than every other Avenger for what he did to him, like snaps him out,
mm,
whatever. And so he just has this, and in the I don't know, it'd be some future loop shit there, but like it starts to fall
right.
apart really quickly when you start to think about like who
No,
it would
right.
have to be
But
some entity or something
you
like,
bring up a really
but
cool story beat, for that does truly affect this movie, with Ultron, hating Tony seemingly more passionately than any I think he
mhm.
just truly resents having been created. Having to have
Oh,
been created. I
okay.
think that he I don't know how you guys have
Hmm.
seen Dodgeball. I think it's a nobody makes me bleed my own blood sort of thing. Like, I think it's just
Okay.
it's just sort of like eh, I think he resents the idea that he could not have existed without these people who he hates so much.
Damn.
Now,
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
think that's
go
part of it.
murder my parents now that I could not be here without them. I'm kind of pissed off
Mhm.
now that they
Man,
have all the credit.
I
This is
created myself.
yeah,
Yeah, like,
yeah, but
that sort of thing,
um
It's,
I guess that's
so
Ultron's kind of whole thing is taking everything to the extreme of,
yeah,
just I mean
yeah.
that's just it. He just takes
Well, it
everything.
says that he took everything to extreme and he multiplied so much just because he was ultimately afraid.
Mhm.
The whole movie.
I There was one moment. His motives were pretty clear the whole time. It was just
Yeah.
peace in our time, whatever. But humans can't do that, so got to kill every human. But whenever he's like creating the new body, Vision's body, and it's being created, and they take it away from him, he says like, oh my god, like only if I could have had this body humans would have looked up in like honor, or they would have looked up in hope at the sky, but now they will look up in fear as to what is coming. So
Mm.
that line is really weird because like what it say Ultron succeeds and gets Vision's body. We got that episode, right? In What
Yeah,
If?
we've seen that. We've seen
Like
that in What If.
wouldn't that be what happens? He wins, he kills everybody, he eventually kills the entire multiverse or universe. Um
According to Marvel Studios, yes,
Yeah.
that is
So
what happened.
so what is he meaning by like, oh man, I don't have this body now. It's not gonna be whatever. Is it I had the like it's a crazy theory. I mean, I don't really believe in it, but like if um like this universe it is doomed because Kang or whoever's at the top is like controlling everything and free will isn't a thing. So, but every mind and consciousness, like I think this is how the Eternals link in is like the forge where they're made, all of their memories are kept. So maybe every
Mm,
conscious memory is kept somewhere and every time a universe is reborn it's the same consciousnesses over and over. So maybe
right,
there's
right.
a new villain that's introduced and at first, it seems that they just want to wipe out the entire universe or everything. But their actual goal is to just wipe out the loop and all the shackles on free will and then
Mm.
rebuild a new universe with all of the same consciousnesses and everything. And I thought that, like, maybe that's what Ultron was trying to do. And this was some ancient time or mind stone being that knows this sort of thing, that would be outside of, but like, while they're making this movie, no way they're thinking this stuff. So like,
No, that is
and
interesting to
um,
think about. It does seem like his motives shift by the end of the movie.
mm-hmm,
I think that when he is in the process of creating Vision's body, I do think it means the end of humankind. But what the What If episode of Marvel leads us to believe is that he won't stop until there's
yeah,
nothing left.
nothing
I
left.
do think that what he intends to be is God. He wants to create, like, he wants to create new entities. He wants to create new beings, and this
Mm-hmm.
cradle and vision was just kind of the start of that, you know?
Oh, okay. I guess it might just be the stone itself. Like he does not have the stone, and with the
Mhm.
stone, maybe what he is saying is the death would have been very swift for humans if like he had the stone. Like maybe it wouldn't have been this super scary, lifting up a whole city and then slamming it back into earth. Maybe he could have just like it could have been a merciful, you know, boom, everyone's done
Right.
sort of thing. I don't know how necessarily, but he took out Thanos with
Yeah, he
every
does
other
say he wants
stone
to just kinda restart.
instantaneously.
He wants
Um,
to get it popping from the
mhm.
get-go, but, yeah, no, it's, so, like, I think the character poses a lot of really interesting ideas, specifically as it relates to AI in our time,
Mm,
like, that's,
How quickly it
pretty
can just
pretty
fall out of control. Like good
pretty pressing issue.
intentions, yeah, like very good
Mhm.
intentions to create it, but yeah, very very quickly it falls out of our hands. And I don't know. I think that's why I like Ultron so much is because it is such a, I mean, very he's made out of vibranium. He can control things. Like, the stuff he does is crazy, but it is kind of the closest to a real-ish world villain that we can have, like, looking forward to, I guess, like, in the future, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, like we're not gonna have we probably
Thanos
won't have like an
or
Asgardian god who comes down and tells us to kneel, and we're
yeah, I
not
hope
gonna
not.
have a giant purple
Um,
Titan who comes down and is like, "Well, I'm gonna wipe out half your planet."
I guess
But
the Iron
an
Man
AI
villains are
waking up,
pretty,
and
pretty
that's not
realistic there.
entirely
But
out of the question.
yeah, I don't know. I just I love me some Ultron, love me some Vision, and the um specifically the vision that Thor has, I think is the most important vision out of everyone that anyone has, because he sees like every stone. He sees Vision wake up before Vision wakes up. Like he sees
Yeah,
his eyes, and all the stones. He sees them in the shape of the gauntlet, um, and everything. And but yeah, I think I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see where they go in the future if they do come back on any of this stuff and decide to play with it. But I think if anything, it the only part of my theory that really works with this is like if each stone is like a person or an entity or
yeah,
something
represents.
larger than something, and that's the next step that we take. But
I get you. I
long
get you.
ways down the road.
Uh,
Um,
that started from your favorite line, correct?
I think so. Which is I am just from Vision simply.
Oh, there you
So
go.
yes,
All
I went
right.
down the rabbit hole a little bit.
No,
Um,
that's all right. That's all right. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk. Peyton, what was your favorite line of the film? You are muted currently. I can't hear you.
I had a twofer.
Mm.
So my first one was whoever he shall haveth the power is during the part when he was trying to lift the hammer, which I thought was probably that was I'm just gonna throw it in there right now. That was my favorite scene in the movie too, as well.
okay.
You know,
Good choice.
seeing Chris Evans just barely nudge that the
Mhm.
hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I remember being in the theaters and that first came out, and everybody
Like
just started screaming.
oh.
It was awesome. But yeah, I would have to say that, and then I was born yesterday from Vision in the very end.
Yeah.
That was just too good not to write down. I felt like.
Mm. No, yeah, those are
Mm-hmm.
both so good, and that's such a great. Both of those are great scenes. Like the whole party, everybody hanging out and trying
That's
to.
when
It,
Ultron is introduced as well.
exactly.
Oh,
Just
That's
dude.
everything really kind of hits right there. And I thought
mm,
that was just honestly with the way things were transitioned,
Ooh.
everything was very, very well. That was really well put in the
Wow.
movie by the producer.
Would you look at
no, yeah,
that?
the editing was really sound. I really like how we chop and the mirroring scenes of Ultron and Vision waking up in the
That's what I
same
would.
place
Yeah,
at
that's
the
what I
yeah,
just
like
realized. I never put the two together until like you were just talking about
mhm,
it. But like it is lifting the hammer and Ultron coming out at the end, being born,
mhm,
and then at the other way, it's Vision being born at the
being
beginning
born and lifting
and
a banner
the
at the
hammer
end.
at the end. Oh
Yeah.
wow, yeah, okay,
No,
that's
yeah. It's a
actually
very
pretty
cool
cool.
setup,
Wow.
and follow through on those. It's, I really, really and the last scene where he does say, like, "Well, I was born yesterday." That conversation between Vision and Ultron is one that, I think, there Vision just has such an obvious presence that, he this reminded me a lot of Vision versus White Vision and
Mm,
WandaVision.
mm-hmm.
That you have you considered the thought experiment of the ship of Theseus? Like that whole thing reminded me of that a lot, and just the philosophical nature of Vision and the way that he is able to contemplate these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that there's even in those last moments, Ultron has something of a love for Vision, which
Yeah.
is very interesting,
It's like a
and I think it's
respect, I think
mhm,
more, yeah,
I
it's
think it was because Jarvis was programmed into Vision at
mhm.
some point, correct? Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and so Tony Stark had said at one point that Jarvis had pretty much infiltrated Ultron at the same
Mhm.
time as him not even knowing about it, and I think that's why he had that respect for Vision in the end.
There's literally a part of him in him also.
He's
That
like,
makes sense.
Oh
I
wow.
think the sense of the Mind Stone itself makes Jarvis, not Jarvis, sorry, Vision, be such a good guy and be worthy
Mm-hmm.
of picking up Thor's hammer, is
I
because
tend to think
those stones were sent in the universe to keep balance to the universe. And I think that you can't have balance if the guy that has the Vision Stone
Man,
or has the Mind Stone is just destroying everything.
the
You
Mind
know,
Stone is a
just doesn't
weird
make
one
sense.
that doesn't really get talked about a lot, I feel.
No,
Like the Space Stone, it's kind of you teleport. You can go from here to there. Power Stone, you can make big booms, or you can make, like in Reality Stone, you can anything can change. But like the Mind Stone and Reality
you can
Stone,
think hard and shoot beams.
yeah, I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
they're the Reality Stone and Mind are the ones that are kind of vague, where like it's not like the Soul Stone. Who the fuck knows what's going on with that? I really have no clue. The Mind Stone, at least we have some things like you can like Odin or no, I don't know. Like Odin's beam that comes out of his staff looks an awful lot like the Mind Stone beam, but I guess it's like yeah, you can shoot a beam.
Well, the Mind Stone beam comes from Loki's scepter, so I don't think it's completely out of the question that
Yeah,
maybe
Odin imbued all his shit with the stone's powers. That's why I think like his children are imbued with the stone's power. Like
Mhm.
Loki is the time stone, Thor is the space. I guess the space.
Yeah.
Yeah, space stone, Bifrost,
Mhm.
lightning, everything. Um, and but the Mind Stone, it is very like what does it? Is that what allows him to phase through objects, or is that his vibranium and tissue
Interesting. I've never
shit,
thought of that.
or
I think it's the tissue,
is
in
so
my
it's so
opinion.
not the Mind Stone doing that?
I don't know, man.
Because
With the fact that when he does it, you do see yellow makes me think that it
it's
could be the Mind
probably the
Stone,
Mind
but,
Stone.
but not just because of the
I think
color.
that's the source of every single, like,
Oh,
power he
I
has.
feel
I
like
don't
it's
think he'd be able
yeah.
to fly on his own
No,
without the Mind Stone.
no way.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
I feel like it's like atomic, like manipulate. He can just manipulate
Maybe.
matter.
It's like he's literally
Like anything he could
yeah,
think of, he can just because that's what he did. He looked at Thor and he's like, "Oh, dude, cape, that's badass.
bet.
Boom,
Yeah.
fucking cape right now."
Manifested that shit.
Um,
Uh,
So I
yeah,
think it's
those
just
are
whatever he can think, whatever it like, kind of like a Green Lantern, but not exactly, not
I
like
definitely
weapon
think that
like, but
Vision without the Mind Stone is just a normal
it's just a fucking
AI.
guy.
it's a
Just a
Jarvis.
Um,
normal
Yeah.
AI guy. It's just a
well, and they
Jarvis for the
contemplate that
Hmm.
question come Infinity War. You take the
yeah.
Mind Stone out of Vision, there's still a whole lot of Vision left. I do think he would
Hmm.
not be able to do some of the super heroic shit he does in
You
terms of
put him in a
flying.
wheelchair and that's it, pretty much, after the Mind
Yeah.
Stone's taken off his forehead.
Yeah, he's really
Becomes
smart.
Professor X after that without
Um,
the thinking
without
powers.
any of the abilities. Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
But
No, but
Vision does
I do think that, like, there's like they said, there's still a whole lot of Vision there without the
hmm
Mind Stone.
and
But
Wanda's connection to the Mind Stone,
mhm.
which is really, really huge, and further dabbled on in WandaVision, but you can gather. Well, actually, there is no link yet until WandaVision, but with her and the Mind Stone, right?
Maybe
No,
the
they don't
only
confirm that.
thing is whenever Vision comes and picks up Wanda and just the way he looks at her, but other
Yeah,
than
there's
that,
like a little
there's
bit of
not a
a
whole lot
w
there.
there's you can surmise that it is the Mind Stone that gave Wanda her powers because where she was being studied,
Yep.
they had Loki's scepter. They didn't have any other Infinity Stone, and therein it
That
kinda
is
had to be
correct.
that. Um,
They don't
Hmm.
really go in depth and show how they experimented with
that's the
Loki's
other
scepter,
thing.
Yeah.
They
and so I
imply that the
understand.
experimentation has been happening a long time, so I think it's kind of a retcon. I talked about this with the Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy episode last week, bending continuity but not
Shit
breaking
pulled
it.
me in for that one. Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
is
This
my
is like
favorite. Just to let you know.
Kyler
Sorry.
was there, yeah, we
Oh
we'll
man.
have to see about volume 2 or something, but, yeah, no,
really
it
wow.
is interesting to think about how Wanda, uh, and Vision are connect and that was one of the things coming into it. You were coming into it looking for Vision and Ultron. I was coming into it looking for Wanda. I love the Scarlet Witch.
Hmm.
I got the book on display here. Big fan of Wanda Maximoff. And I love Elizabeth Olsen. So this was big. She didn't
Hmm.
end up getting either of my performance or character. I was close
Yeah.
with performance. Um, but I am gonna give her my shot. My favorite shot of the movie is after Pietro dies and
Ooh,
she drops to her knees screaming and all the
boom.
bots around her explode and she's, like, screaming on the ground, like, super fucking cool.
Right?
Beautiful visual.
Last time we
Um
saw that happen, which is in the future after this in WandaVision, she created WandaVision, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
So who's to say that something didn't like happen here, you know? Like at
Right, the
this
unleashing of
moment.
her power here a little
Like
bit.
what wait, what was the thing that oh, Vision dying? Well, no.
Yeah.
What was her in the house? Like she got to the house and then broke down and then boom. It was
Like,
kind
what
of
caused her
then.
to break down?
Yeah.
I mean, it was supposed to be her and Vision's house.
So it was sort of
Uh,
building up and then
it
she
is
got to the
because of
house and
Vision.
then
Yeah,
boom.
and she
Okay.
looks down at at the
Mhm.
deed to the house, and it says to grow old in,
Okay. So that one
for
that I
her
guess there's
and
more thought behind that boom, or
Vision.
that explosion. This one is more of just instant grief, I guess.
Well,
Okay.
and there are interesting little flashes of that ability where, she evacuates the town
That's
by
true. She just
controlling all of
controls,
their
yeah,
minds.
and then walks everyone
Uh,
calmly like out. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that was I don't
So, like,
know.
that's an interesting little flash of that ability yet to come, and
Mhm.
I think what you can really dig into with the Scarlet Witch, especially the MCU version of the Scarlet Witch, is that her power is basically compounds upon itself the deeper her emotions get. The more grief she suffers, the more
Mm,
powerful she becomes, or the more powerful she's willing to let herself be, you know? And I think it's really interesting to watch that evolution because this is baby shit compared to what she does later on in these movies, I
mhm.
think that
She
and I mean,
shreds
on
Mr.
every level.
Fantastic.
On
Literally.
every level, Wanda's
Um,
characterization, Elizabeth Olsen's performance of her, the abilities of Wanda, like, all that shit is nowhere near the level it eventually is, and
mhm,
that's one of the more exciting things about this project and watching the way the actors evolve, especially with an actress like Elizabeth Olsen, who is immensely talented. I mean, this was 2015. This is almost a decade ago now,
Whew.
and her most recent appearance was in a movie 2 years ago. So, 7 years in the MCU and kind of just
Wow.
every single time stepping it up. I think it's really impressive, and that that leads me to another one of my favorite scenes, and I was tempted to go with it. So, Joe, what'd you end up going with your favorite scene? I wanted to hear it out.
I do like the visions that everyone has. More the second one, whenever she invades the rest of the team, not just Tony.
Mm,
But kind of like the aftermath. It's kind of like the sad moment when they're all just in the jet and they're like, "Holy shit, we lost."
yeah,
We're not used to losing. It was
yeah,
either that or the only scene that got me to cry, which is why I was going to give Scarlett Johansson the performance, was whenever they were at Hawkeye's house and he got like Hulk gets out of the shower,
mhm,
and him and Nat have like a little conversation there, and it's he's like I can't have kids, whatever, blah blah, blah. And then she breaks down and is like that's my graduation ceremony, I can't do that, and like just her performance in that alone, I was like holy shit, like I don't know, like I wasn't really invested in the movie, like I guess I was just watching it like normal, but that was like it just took me like out of nowhere. I'm like holy fuck, I'm like I'm crying with her now. I'm like what the
no,
fuck is going on?
that's a really heavy moment, and I think that it gets paid off big time in Black Widow, which is way too far down the line,
Mhm.
but, we get, one of my favorite little things to do with this project is big actors in small roles.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
we get, I mean, we got a few in this movie. We got the more obvious, who's a little bit more prevalent, Andy Serkis
Mm.
as Ulysses Claw, who does come back around in Black Panther. Um,
Mhm.
Love Andy Serkis to death, so him being here and only for about 5 minutes, he's in one scene, like it qualifies for
Mhm.
this project, I would say,
Oh
but
yeah.
the more just jaw-dropping, flooring appearance for me, was Madam B, the woman talking to Scarlett Johansson in her vision is played by Julie Delpy, who is the lead actress in the Before trilogy, which we just talked about the other day, Before Sunrise,
Oh,
Sunset, and Midnight. Fantastic actress. Made her like breakthrough performance in a John-Luc Goddard film is like one of the greatest directors of all time. Like she's so she's an artist. She is a fucking actress, so whenever she pops up in this itty bitty role to never be seen again in Age of Ultron, I was like, I like kind of did a double take where I was like, is that fucking Julie Delpy?
Maybe they did have plans. Maybe they didn't want to wait as long to make the Black Widow movie as they did.
Yeah. I'd be willing to bet she was supposed to be a part of the Black Widow movie. Now, whether or not, by the time the Black Widow movie rolls around, I'd be willing to bet Julie Delpy went, I'm okay. That's kind of where my money's at.
Pandemic movie too. Well, I guess, did they know at the time when they were
they
filming?
dropped it in 2020. I guess it had been filmed in 2019 and 2018 and stuff, but regardless, it's just so that was just a bit like I was just kind of like, what the fuck? Julie Delpy's in this movie, and so that was a nice little moment. And there's another little pull through that I don't think, definitely not a big actor, by no means a big actor, but I'm having trouble remembering. Do you recall in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, whenever the what's his fuck? The Nazi, the Hydra agent who ends up being in Civil War because he got, this is for dropping a building on me. That whole thing. He fights. He puts a gun to the guy's head and is like, do this. And he goes, I can't, captain's orders.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that the guy who's like fumbling at the end of the movie, controlling the fucking helicarrier? Like
it's all full, all topped off, all full, topped off, full, all of them, all. The ships
it's there.
Full.
It's good. It's
like
ready.
Whatever, yeah.
I feel like it's the same guy. It might not be the same guy, but they have the same energy. So I just thought that was if it is the same guy,
same actor. But I think they're maybe trying to imply that. I can't think of their faces right now. I'm trying.
I can't think of the face of the dude from the Winter Soldier. I can absolutely see the guy. In this here, I'm gonna find out real quick. But in the meantime,
oh my god, yeah,
I will go ahead and give another one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And frankly, Vision's been getting a lot of love, so I think I'm gonna change my scene from Vision waking up. I'm gonna go with Hawkeye giving Wanda the pep talk.
That's a good one.
It's a good scene. I love that scene. Whenever he's like, here's the thing, you can stay here, and that's fine. This is another, just like I said, I really like Hawkeye in the comic books, and I feel like they never kind of reach this level with him again. A fantastic Hawkeye scene, and him kind of going, it's okay if you don't want to fight. That's all right. You stay here. I'll send your brother. We'll get it figured out, and that'll be that. That's fine, But if you do want to fight, you fight to fucking kill. I don't have time to babysit you. We got to fucking go, And then after that, it's her kind of exiting and fucking shit up for a second, saving his ass.
You're an Avenger.
I loved that.
You step out that door, you're an Avenger, and then he does it. He gets ready. He's like, "All right, fuck, shit, I'm right." Goes to the door, just like you're like, "Oh, damn, that's pretty badass." Like, look at him go.
Loved that shit, dude.
Thank you for switching your scene. I would gladly take and swoop Vision's birth for mine and put it in there. Because I like that a whole lot, and it gives me the clean Vision sweep because my shot will come from that scene as well whenever he does go in front of the windows, and it's the first reflection, not the close-up one with his eyes, but he's standing, he puts his hand up, and you can see a faint reflection. It's kind of like a side view of what's going on. I think we're like half outside, half inside, but then you can still see his reflection. I just thought, I don't know, was very bad. What is that?
Aaron Himmelstein is specialist Cameron Kline in both Captain America: The Winter Soldier and Avengers: Age of Ultron. I got it right. I was correct.
That's actually crazy.
Booyah. No, I mean, I'm glad he really stood out for me in The Winter Soldier. I remember we even dedicated a little part of the conversation to him. So like,
that's incredible.
That's why he stood out. But same guy.
Man, that was a great catch.
Thank you.
Man, I'm glad they gave him a pull through. That's incredible.
They did. That's the only
stood
one.
up. Yeah, dude stood up to
not anymore.
Yeah, oh my god, wow, the ships are all full. I mean, they made him kinda look like a little he's trying. He's
He's
trying
a
to
dweeb. He's a
yeah,
dweeb,
I
but I
think
love it. I
I
love
think
it.
it's kinda funny though, like, all these characters and all these heroes, they say their lines without stumbling whatsoever, but in reality, in the heat of the battle, you'd probably have some stumbles here and there, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
You'd probably, like, I don't know, it doesn't come out as clean, but
Fury, you son of a bitch. You
man.
kiss your mother with that mouth?
Oh, dude, the
That
constant
was
Cap
brought up
hate, yeah, just
so much.
the language, man. No, that's I I will say I think the humor in this one is actually handled way better than most MCU humor.
I'm gonna
It
agree with you.
it's maybe it's lazy. It's a lot of the same stuff over and over again, but it's not like in a super like a moment where something's supposed to land differently. They decide to do like a cop out joke or something where the timing
Yeah.
just doesn't hit. I think
There was literally only one of those for me, and it was Ultron's,
mm,
with the benefit of hindsight. Like, I think that that's
yeah.
a little bit of an awkward placing for that. But besides that, I agree. I think that the comedy works. I don't love that Captain America is the butt of every joke he's a part of. I don't think that that's
Yeah.
I think that Whedon's insistence on Cap being a bitch comes through quite a bit. Even so, though, I think he does a lot to rectify his perception of Cap and the way he portrays him. I think that the speeches that Cap gives and the sort of, you know, if they hurt you, hurt them back.
Yeah.
If they kill you, walk it off. Uh,
All right.
Goofy as shit, but I dig it. I dig it.
Damn.
It's fun stuff.
Cap's orders. Um Yeah, that and Cap's orders, that guy. He tried to do his part. I guess
For
he
sure.
was doing his part. The line landing wasn't the important part. The getting everyone off of the city that is now a meteor would be the I'd say the most pressing problem.
Pretty
But
scary idea there.
Can I bring something up that's just kind of just eating at me?
mm,
Yeah.
Did the end of the movie, like right when it climaxed and then like they blow up the island, did the end of the movie seem kind of mid for like the ending of an
Yeah.
Avengers movie?
mm,
Yeah. No, I'm
That's
with you.
the only problem. That's the only reason why I place this movie out of all the Avengers at about a 3 or a 4.
hmm.
Mhm.
It's down on the list for me because it's just they built it up, and I'm not gonna lie, the build up is very very good. It was very good, and then the climax and how everything resolved was just kind of like, oh, okay,
mm.
that was cool. That's
It,
it.
it's a
And that's
lot
all it was.
of you have to do a lot of work on your part. Like you have to realize what's happening. You have to realize that the big
Yeah.
AI enemy was defeated, and now they're gonna have this conversation afterwards, which is it's very they just blew a city up, and then now it's just one last little straggler robot that Vision's gonna take care of, have a conversation with, and
That
you know,
was kind of cool, but like
um,
the problem that they had, the meteor falling down, I felt like
ah,
they could have maybe done something different to have a better
someone
resolution
should have
to that
died.
situation.
I
Yes.
think
No,
someone should have
yeah,
had to die
other
to
than
blow up.
other than
Someone does die.
Wanda's Wanda's brother, other than him.
True.
But I
Yeah,
mean, like,
but
we didn't
die
even know him
for.
that much to even like really give a shit. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
He was just introduced, and the dude's already dead.
Yeah.
And it's just there's no relation to it. There's no to me there
Hmm.
was no emotions behind him dying.
Frankly,
Frankly.
Hawkeye should have died.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Frankly, that's who should have died in this movie. They build it up the whole fucking time like he's gonna be the one who does die. So you
Hmm.
didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Like it works. It's a good little twist, and I appreciate it. I
Mhm.
think it's a fucking mockery that they fumble Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver like this. Could have been such a great fucking character.
Feels
Ah,
bad.
as
I
a
think it's because the
speedster.
action effects, it was just kind of like those CGI effects whenever he would run
Yeah, the
just
speed
didn't
waves or
match with
whatever.
this that doesn't show me that he's moving fast. In my opinion, until they
There's
actually
one where,
slow
like,
it
they just
down
kind of
and they
appear,
actually like
and he, like, slides in. He, like, slides into frame, and he, like,
slides
turns his
in
shoulder.
like just as slow as anybody else would in that
Mhm.
position. And I don't know, it
Now,
just
Exactly.
didn't seem
now as someone who is, a speedster, and it ran in front of a train and cleared all the civilians out of the path coming into a train. Why wouldn't he just move Hawkeye 10 feet to the left?
Well,
Uh,
also, they literally show Hawkeye shoot a bullet in front of his face and him watch it.
bullet time. Yeah, he could
Yes,
he
he is faster than bullets.
Mhm.
They fumbled that whole scene. They fumbled
The
it. They
thing
could've
that
done
he
better with it, in my opinion.
gets killed by.
Yeah.
Now I'm not usually one to harp on logic in a superhero film. Doesn't that's not going to get you anywhere. It's a
It's
superhero
the
film. It's
one
that.
death though.
But that's the thing, is that they if you contradict yourself as hard as that, hard to ignore, like that's hard to
Mhm.
ignore. It's
Like
you very blatantly showed us that he is faster than bullets, and then he is killed by bullets minutes later.
I guess they're coming out of a jet, so maybe these bullets are faster than a
Yeah,
gun.
they're fast.
But
They're even
I
faster.
don't know. Come on, that's like a the only death and the death wasn't. It was just to save Hawkeye and the kid. It wasn't for the entire city or whatever. It was
It was
you know
that kid's fault he was over there. His mom
Yeah,
went through the freaking lifeboat and he didn't. That's his
honest
problem.
that's his
honestly
problem.
we could
You know what,
blame it
Clint?
on
Leave him over there.
we could blame it on the kid.
Little
Uh,
shit.
yeah, but
I'd blame it on the mom.
Yeah. That's a horrible mom.
honestly, to leave your kid, I guess there's a lot of chaos going
We were
around.
in the
But
market.
CPS should have been called hours ago for that.
Yeah, they're
lady.
We were in the market. You mean you were over
yeah, I
them
think
at
when
one
they
point?
land, I think maybe they don't have custody over that child anymore. If that's known, I don't know. Maybe they lose
That's not
custody.
even on Earth anymore. That's in the air. That's not even. That's a separate country.
Man,
That's
I
true.
think maybe what could have made the end hit a little bit more is if it wasn't a surprise that Ultron was going to lift a city and then kaboom the planet. Like his goal was extinction, and that was clear. But
Yeah.
it was kind of like yeah, he just turned the city into or it's lifting, and then they realized, oh, then it's set to flip and then speed up and then hit, sort of thing. And
I will. Okay, I just remembered some jokes that did not land for me. He's right behind me, isn't he? Ass jokes.
mhm.
The whenever Rhodey is like, War Machine coming at you, and then Vision comes through and suns all of the fucking robots, and he goes,
Yeah.
okay, what? Like it's just like,
Horny.
welcome to the fucking party, buddy. Yeah, this guy's been flying around. He's a fucking robot. He like, I don't know, just didn't work for me. It is what it is. I thought that
Mhm.
I just thought it was a little goofy. But my issue with the ending isn't particularly the stakes. I think the stakes are there. I think they're pretty high. I think that I feel them, and I think that they're doing. It's the fact that there are so many moments that feel like the end of the conflict, and then the conflict keeps going. When Hulk does whack the shit out of Ultron after he says, with the benefit of hindsight,
Mhm.
we then see Ultron flying a Quinjet away. Hulk has to go and throw him out. That also happens before the island starts to collapse. And the island starts to collapse, and they blow it up, and you're like, okay, thank God. Then Iron Man has to navigate through it, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is
Mhm.
still going. I for a movie with so much of that, I do wish that either the solution was straight up vaporizing the island, does not exist. There's no debris, there's nothing. But that affects Civil War with the Sokovia Accords and the destruction that was done, et cetera, et cetera. I wish that the actual end of this movie would have kind of led us a little bit more into Civil War versus kind of feeling like the conflict of Civil War comes out of nowhere.
That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. I think after this movie, I don't know. I feel like some of the plot in this movie, if it wasn't to make Vision a character and be born at the end of the movie, I think it would have turned into Civil War. Like, kind of the beginning of the movie, Tony Stark doing this shit, gets everybody pissed off, and then they split into teams, Civil War. I
Yeah.
think they could have mixed that up, and then they could have put, instead of Civil War after this movie, they could have put Ultron after Civil War, and then once that meteor's all the way up in space, they get like I don't know a little hint of Thanos or something, or something to do a little bit more later in the story and in the plot
That
instead of
is, yeah,
just going off of the visions because you really had to know the story. Like because back in the day when I watched this and the visions that I saw uh, from Thor and Tony Stark, I had no clue what they meant.
yeah,
No
nobody
clue what they
nobody
meant.
did. And that is
Exactly.
that is part of it. They are still
Exactly.
trying to do the big connected, like, they are trying to allude to something to come, and I think that they do that in a really interesting and compelling way. I think that there's it's fascinating to think about that Infinity War is the next Avengers movie.
After
Whoa.
Civil War? Wait.
Civil War's not in a that's a
Civil
Captain
War is a Captain
America movie.
America movie, so
Oh,
it
Yeah.
it is.
operates
It
yeah, it
is.
Yeah.
operates as a
Exactly. I
2.5,
mhm.
like, it is an
Like, it's
Avengers
like the
movie.
Jackass 2.5, it's
Yeah,
not the
exactly.
actual that's
Exactly.
bullshit, dude. No
Yeah.
wonder I didn't even watch the full movie of Civil
Yeah,
War.
exactly. No,
Damn.
so that's why it's like
Mhm.
the idea that the next Avengers movie is Infinity War is insane. Like, and it
So
kind
weird.
of, I'm not gonna lie, they've done some cool shit building up Thanos.
Yeah. Yeah. Did a really
We're
good job
talking
of it.
3 movies. We're
Yeah,
talking 3 movies they've done anything to build that motherfucker up.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
It's not like, well, it doesn't only take an Avengers movie to build Thanos up because they put some other drops in,
No,
right? This
I
is the
know.
last. Is this the last? Like him saying, "Fine, I'll do it myself," is the last time that like we get any Thanos seeds until he shows up.
Until the Ragnarok post-credit scene. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whoa! Wow.
So I'm saying, yeah, we got Thanos in, the scene in the Avengers. We get a little bit of something in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
We get a little bit of something in this.
Hmm.
The more interesting thing they've been building up are the Infinity Stones. The
Yeah, that's
connectivity
what I was
in
connecting.
that is much more interesting than the buildup of Thanos.
I'd
They
agree.
don't do a lot to build up Thanos. We just
What I
know
was
he
kinda thinking.
exists.
It
All
is.
you knew was, pretty much the cutscene. I don't remember exactly which Avengers one it was. I wanna call it the first one, is whenever
Mm-hmm.
Loki was talking to Thanos himself, but
Yeah.
other than that, you didn't really hear a whole lot about it, but I also have another question. In one of the visions, I believe it was Thor's, it had shown it didn't show the gauntlet, but it showed like all four, like there was four stones already set up in the pattern that it goes on the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
What was the one that was missing? Because there's one that goes
The
for the
m-
thumb, correct? Or
Yeah.
it comes. There was two that was missing then,
the
correct?
big one that goes in the middle. That's the Mind Stone, I believe.
That's okay. So
So
that's
that one
Vision
was
Stone.
that one was missing. Um,
What other one was missing? Was it?
and
It
then the
had
Was it
to
the
have been the
Soul
thumb.
Time
Stone?
Stone, right?
The thumb was missing.
Had to
Um,
have been Time Stone, right? Because
Well, yeah, I mean, like, the color will help us. If it's the green one that's missing, it's the
yeah, I
time
can't
stone.
remember. I don't remember. That's why I asked you guys. But if I had to guess, it would be the Time Stone because it's in New York City. With Doctor Strange didn't have it at that point, but timeline wise, that's when it gets dicey. But I
Yeah.
want to say someone. Uh,
okay. The Time
and
Stone is not there.
so I was right.
The Space Stone, Reality Stone, Power Stone, and
Soul?
maybe that actually is the Mind Stone. Is the Mind Stone not the big one? I thought that's
Mine's
the
so
he takes out a
yellow.
Vision's head and then it's the fucking huge one, right? That goes in like the circle, the big
Big middle
circle
one,
in
because
the
it's the
middle.
last one.
Yeah, it's the last one.
I've
Yeah.
always thought it was a little goofy. The Mind Stone actually isn't that much bigger than the rest of them. I think there's some sort of warping that happens,
For
when they
sure.
put it on his glove
For
for
sure.
scaling.
Yeah,
Duh.
Yeah, like
because like, well, we see just like the little outline of it on Vision's forehead, but it's actually
oh,
like
but it's
really he
bigger
like
in there.
he goes
Yeah.
in his head, he like really digs
Yeah,
it out of there.
that's
They do a
true.
whole
Um,
X-ray and
so yeah,
No,
whatnot.
then it's probably the Soul Stone.
yeah, maybe that is the
Um,
Soul Stone, but it kind of doesn't.
I mean, it works that way, if Thor Thor has the interaction with Thanos right after he gets the Time Stone, right before he gets the Mind Stone. Those would be the last two, you know?
True. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That does make
it is
sense. That
mine.
makes a
It
lot of
is
sense.
from the Time Stone and then to Mind Stone.
And maybe for that stone to actually expand and be bigger on the gauntlet,
Yeah, what
is
is why is it bigger?
you have to have all the stones together in order for that to
Yeah,
That
happen.
is
maybe
kind of
Maybe.
interesting
I've
though.
I don't know that it like I'm again going with movie magic here. I think it's a
For
scaling
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a I don't think it's a literally bigger stone. I think they just
Oh,
whenever it goes into his gauntlet, it's a bigger stone.
it just looks like it because of the decorations around it. Like the outline, like if you just look at the actual gauntlet, like a picture of it, it's like the decorations around the Mind Stone that really makes it look big. But if you just compare the stones, they look the same.
Gotcha.
They're all pretty much exactly the same there. But
Gotcha. Are there any favorites left to give out?
I believe it is just one
You're on
shot.
mute again.
Just a shot.
I
Did I?
think
Yeah, I said yeah.
yeah. I
Um,
think it's just shot. The
mhm.
favorite shot.
And that
What
is
is it
it.
then? Gimme.
Mine is it's so small compared to every single scene in the movie, but when I saw it, I was just like, God, he's a badass, you know. So whenever Chris Evans, they were splitting wood, and the dude just splits it with his fucking hand. That was the
Yeah.
most badass shit I've ever seen.
Bro,
And
when
I just
I
thought it was
was
so cool.
when I was 15 watching this in a movie theater, this made me feel so fucking bad about myself. Like,
Him
I
in that
was like,
shirt, dude. Oh my
that
god.
shirt,
Like,
Yeah.
Jesus
holy
fucking
fuck.
Christ. I
That
mean,
shirt was hurt.
holy shit. I went home and I worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that shirt was hurting, bro. That thing was screaming.
That thing was
He was always
Yeah.
nipping too. He
that
always
thing
was
was
kind of nipping,
hugging him.
going around. But wow, no, he did look massive.
Did you
Oh,
say
yeah, I mean,
your favorite
yeah.
line, Coro?
I don't think I did. I don't think
I
I've
don't
said
think
it.
you did. I think the only line you said was the same one as mine, but you said it on
Mhm.
earlier, and it was just for
Yeah.
an example.
Yeah, I guess
Gotcha.
you
Yeah,
would
no,
be
there's
right.
there's a few good ones. I love the classic Ultron introductory line. I love his I had strings, but now I'm free.
He's so
Are
like,
you
oh, that's
free?
why I almost did go with him for
Now I'm
performance because
free.
like
No,
he
he's
does
ominous.
do a
He's
good job.
ominous as
But
shit.
yeah.
Freaky motherfucker right there,
Mhm.
to be
James
sure.
Spader's voice is just very distinct, so that was such a
Yeah.
good villain
That's the
voice, in my
that's the
opinion.
fucking Lizard King,
Yeah.
okay?
I'm the fucking lizard. Yeah, that I mean, what a dude. Just
Yeah.
kind of I don't know. He always has just a weird
Just a weird vibe.
Very
yeah.
Crazy vibe
distinct,
on the guy.
just a distinctive voice on him. You don't even have to put a face on him to know. It's just like this dude creeps me out.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
But the other line, which was less just indicative of this movie and more, I thought it was a good moment for Steve in a movie where Joss Whedon does not love Steve Rogers, so it's just kind of like every once in a while you can't help but acknowledge the kind of guy Steve is, you know?
Yeah.
He says, every time someone tries to end a war before it starts, innocent people die. Every
Right.
time.
Mhm.
Uh, it's a great fucking line, and it goes exactly in line with everything that Cap has been about this entire fucking show, this entire fucking series, and just really, really, again, just really gets the character. And I love that character. And in a movie where he doesn't get a ton to deal with, I think that does a good job. So I really liked that one. But
Mhm.
if that's it, do we think we're ready for a rating?
I think we are
Yeah,
there.
I think so too.
Yeah. I
All
think
right,
we
then
are
before
there.
we get to that, I'm gonna go ahead and do our plugs. If you would, go ahead and head to YouTube. We're on video now, baby. You can see us. You can see us talking. It's a lot of fun. Over on Penny Bloom Podcast, over on YouTube, you can subscribe, like, comment, hit us up with any thoughts you might have. We're happy to respond either there or if we get the opportunity in a timely fashion on video. That'd be a lot of fun. And you could probably also find us on video on TikTok at Penny Bloom Pod or at Penny Bloom Podcast. It's a lot of fun making those TikToks. I have a lot of fun editing them, and it's a great time. Head to Twitter, follow at Penny Bloom Pod, follow on Instagram at Penny Bloom Podcast. Head to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod, where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content, all sorts of book reviews, comic book reviews, movie reviews, and the like. For $3 a month, you can support the podcast financially, which is huge because it costs me money and I don't make any off of it unless it's over there. Yeah, I think that's it. And with that, we can go ahead and get into a rating. So the rating section is pretty simple. We've made it much more simple. Peyton, you're new to the pod, so you don't know exactly the history that we've got on us. We've worked hard to reach this simple of a point. And even then, it's not that simple. So we've got an enjoyment rating, which is just a personal, how much you're digging the movie, how much you like it, how much it resonates with you, how you feel about it, how it makes you feel. The other one is the critical rating. And the critical rating is how good of a movie it is. The way we describe it is that the first one is a little bit more subjective. The second one is a little bit more objective. Now, when it comes to critical rating of movies, none of it is objective. We know this. It's art. It is what it is. However, we try to approach it from a little bit less of a biased standpoint for the critical rating. And when we take our critical rating, we think about performances. We think about cinematography. We think about the score. We think about the writing, the editing, etc. All things that make a movie good or bad.
Okay.
We sum that up into a number. We try our best. So we will begin, per your request, by giving our enjoyment rating first, and then we'll go to you for both your enjoyment and critical. Okay. So this will probably be a little bit of a thing, if I had to guess, Peyton. Because I like the movie. As far as my understanding of it, you love the movie. Joe.
I thought I was going to. That's the thing, is that I wanted to come out the other side and be like, this is my favorite Avengers movie that there is. There's no question about it. But there's some questions that I have about it. I mean, there's no beating Infinity War and Endgame. It's kind of like unfair. Like when you compare the rest of them. I still love this movie. Like I love it just for Ultron and Vision. But the team kind of lacks as far as like Avengers movies go. It's not quite the team you want. When Hawkeye is by far the most interesting character on the team. No offense to Hawkeye, but something's gone wrong somewhere down the line.
There's a disconnect.
So
I get it.
That's I don't, on my letterbox on our
where'd it rank?
All of them.
What was this movie number 50?
This is I have 58 on the list.
It's our 58th movie in this project.
And the first Avengers movie I have at 17. I put this one. I still have it above it, but barely. I put it at 15 for me. So I don't know. I maybe my expectations were just very, very high for this, and then I watched it, and it wasn't the movie I thought that it was. But I don't want to say that I had a bad time. I mean, it's still 15 out of 58. It's pretty high up there. It's almost top 10.
It's up there. And that's not far off from where I have it. I have it at 16. I have it at 16 out of 58. And that's a few spots above the Avengers. The first Avengers movie for me is actually at 25, so it's almost 10 full spots above it. The closest one is the first Thor movie, and the first Thor is at 20. So it's just a few spots below it. So it ranks pretty nicely among the MCU. I've got Guardians above it. I've got both of the first Captain America movies, Iron Man 3, and then this. So it's top 5 MCU right now.
Okay. I just have Iron Man above it. Would be the only addition from yours.
Just the first one?
Yeah. I have Iron Man 1 and 3 above.
So he has all the same ones as me, plus Iron Man, I think is what he's saying.
Yes. Right? Yeah. But, I thought, initially, I thought this was going to be like top 10, easy, no question about it. But the movie, they're usually, when a movie is heralded as like bad or like the audience doesn't like it for some reason. Usually it does come from somewhere. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't think that it's a bad movie. It is just that it is kind of the same everywhere.
Yeah,
And then
it's a middling. It's just an all right movie. It's solid. I genuinely think it's better than the first Avengers. I do.
yeah,
I
hmm
think on pretty much every front, it's a better movie,
yeah,
except maybe the villain because Loki is just Loki. But
that's true.
it's tough to beat. And even then, I think Ultron is every bit as menacing. Uh,
Yeah.
but how do you quantify that enjoyment wise on a scale of 1 to 10? How do you quantify that on a personal note?
Hmm. I would say, well, the first Avengers we gave 8.25. So if that is, I think I am enjoying this one more. Um.
Damn, we gave the first Avengers an 8.25.
Hmm. You're not there for this.
No, I'm not even there. I'm not there.
Oh,
Avengers on a personal note isn't even an 8.
okay. That'd be The
So,
Watchmen and Batman Returns and X-Men.
my gut enjoyment-wise did take me to an 8 for this movie. 8 ceiling. I like it. It's solid. I don't think it'll do that well on the critical side of things, but I do enjoy it a great deal. I think that the way it plays with tone is really fun. I like the horror angle it kinda takes. I think that it livens the movie
Mm.
up. Um, so I like it. I like it. So frankly, with the re-rating, which we is inevitable, some of this will change.
Oh,
So where
I forgot about that. We did. We haven't actually
we
re-rated
haven't
everything.
formally done our re-rating, um, I did the side thing with our personals. We did a for those who are not in the know, we did a blind re-rating where we both separately re-rated our entire catalog of movies. Um,
in a little bit unbiased, stricter way.
yes, exactly. Where we're not working together to find a middle ground. We go ahead and tell each other exactly how we feel, gut feeling. And what I did this on my own. I'm not even sure if this is going to end up being the way we do it. Is I just took the average of those and I put it to the side. Um,
Oh, would you look at that? I didn't know that existed until right now.
yeah, I just
Um,
did that on my own. That's just the enjoyment ratings. I just had a good little time. Was like, I wanted to see because I feel like that's the most fair way if we want to go forward, do our own ratings and then just take an average. It would be simple. It wouldn't take a lot of deliberation. It would just be that. But um, with that, I can't even remember what I gave the Avengers on my personal re-rating. Can you tell me?
yeah, a 6.75. For
That's about
enjoyment
right.
there.
That's about right.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm much more loving of a critic, I guess. I gave it an 8.75. So yeah, two whole points above.
but to split
Um,
it, it would have landed at 7.75,
7.75, yes, and then which would make an 8 for this actually makes sense and work.
which is where my gut took me. So I'm
Um,
like, in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, you know what? There is a logic to my madness. So I'm like, uh,
I like an 8. I do kind of like
you
an
like an
8
8?
sounds right. Like not comparing it to any other movie, an 8 sounds right. And then whenever
Yeah,
we do compare it to the previous Avengers, if we were to change and go with the 7.75, I would just give it that extra little bump. So I think
I would.
with those
And
two,
that's the thing is that that's why our system right now it has holes, because if we were going off Avengers being an 8.25, I'd make this an 8.5, which doesn't feel right to me. That feels high. Feels extremely high.
yeah,
So I'm cool with an 8. I'm cool with an 8 if you are cool with an 8.
yeah, I'm cool with an 8.
All right. All right. Then Peyton, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, just enjoyment wise? How's this movie sitting with you?
So going back through it, I had a couple different reasons on why I picked the number that I did. I looked at this movie kind of more of a stepping stone into Infinity War and Endgame. Um, I thought the ending was kind of subpar, like I had said prior. And so I put it at this number stood out to me is a 7.325
Wow,
7.3.
for my enjoyment.
very
Okay.
specific there.
Very specific. I love it.
Um,
I
Yep.
love it.
we used to go
Yep.
that hard.
We
We
did
used to.
once upon a
And
time.
then yeah, we simplified
I,
it.
I I was just going to
Um,
do 7.325 3.5 or like a 3.0. I just don't know why. It just
Split it.
this
7.3.
number just had to it just had to happen in my
I
mind.
dig it. No, and sometimes that's how it be. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that logic there. 7.32. Okay. And see, we were nicer than that. We were north of that. So how does that number affect your critical number? How do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 just how good this movie is?
So the I'd say with the critical rating based off of like performance. You said it's based off performance and writing and like all that.
Just all that makes a movie good or bad, because you can love a bad movie and you can hate a good movie. So I feel like we try to focus on the good or bad part versus the love or hate part when it comes to this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, okay. Well, honestly, I would say just a good 7.125 for
7125.
critical.
All
Yeah.
right. Let's see. Let's see what that ends up giving you. 7.
A little more complicated numbers to
Sorry,
type in this
it's
time.
just hey man,
Hey,
I
you're
had to. My
Hey,
brain wouldn't allow me.
I
you're
love
That
it.
was
rolling off
my
the
I
that was
love
dome,
it.
my that was
yeah.
my
Do
critical
not
thinking.
do
I had
not
to do it.
apologize.
No.
Your rating for this movie would ultimately culminate in a 72, a 7.2%.
And that sits very well with me. I'm very
And
cool
I
with
love
that.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
My final number probably wouldn't be far from that. Critically, I'm not nearly as high on this as I am enjoyment-wise. I do put it a step down. By I mean, here's some stuff I will say. I think it is a more interesting movie to look at on the whole than the Avengers. I think that the Avengers, there are big moments that have really cool visual effects, but I think the visual effects in this movie are pretty much fucking seamless. It's kind of unbelievable how good the visual effects in this movie are. Um, my issues start to come in with direction and performance. I think that, like we said earlier, the performances are flat as hell. There's hardly any differentiating between character through performance. Um, everyone tries their best within what they're given, and I think that's a result of writing and direction. I think that there's I can't remember what movie it was we were discussing. It might have been Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy is a really good comedic movie
Love it. My
because
absolute
every
favorite.
same here. Absolutely. Love that movie.
Absolutely.
And the reason the comedy in that movie works is because every joke told comes from the right person. Every
Right.
joke told
It
is in
fits.
character for that person to say.
Everything fits. So like
Exactly. So
okay,
this movie,
I'm kind of curious. I'm sorry to jump in, but what were
okay.
your guys' ratings for Guardians of the Galaxy, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh, we
They're
gave it a 10 enjoyment. That was a 10 out of 10. And then I can't remember critically. You probably have it right in front of you.
8.5
8.5,
critically.
85%.
So
Critically?
that is the highest MCU movie
Yeah, it's the
by
best
far.
MCU.
I'm
Fourth
gonna,
in the
you
entire
know what?
project so far.
It's my favorite movie, and maybe I'm just being strict, but it was a good 9.725 for
All right.
enjoyment.
I love your energy.
And the critical thinking for it, or not the critical thinking, the critical rating for it was definitely 8.5 plus to me.
Okay, cool.
I
So we're on the same
absolutely
page. We're
love
on the
that
same page.
movie.
I love it.
Absolutely
No,
love
I'm
the
there.
movie.
I'm there, man. But to go back to what I was saying, the reason some of the comedy works, and this applies to other movies in the MCU. The Guardians of the Galaxy is just a really good example of it. Um, the movies all sound like they're coming from the jokes sound like they're all coming from the same joke writer.
Right.
They
Yes.
all sound like someone's perspective getting funneled through multiple characters.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. That is a very good point.
And that does end up affecting it negatively for me. I think that, and like, I'm not one to be like comedy. Oh, we need to take this serious. We absolutely do not. That's why I enjoy the movie. That's why it's an 8. That's why I think it is fun because the jokes are funny most of the time. I just do think that it ends up affecting it negatively in the long run.
Yeah. whenever we have Guardians, like as an example already, and you see what just great, I mean, like almost perfect character work can do. We have never met any of these characters before in the MCU, and you love almost every single one of them by the end
Mm.
of the movie. And
They all seem to have like a different sense of humor, and you
mhm,
could
Exactly.
tell
They all
because of
personalities. There's a
yes,
deep, like deep, um,
uniqueness.
yeah. Everyone
yes,
has their own stuff,
and I don't see
and
any of that in Ultron
yeah, this movie we
whatsoever.
have characters that we
Like Cordell
only that
said,
are huge,
yeah,
like hugely known characters that we do know their pasts. We know we all of that is known already, and so like Guardians is almost more impressive in the sense that it had to get you to know those characters, and maybe that lends you to just build more personality moments into the writing. You know, you need to get to know the characters in the first
To
place, but
build to build
um,
on that, like, getting introduced to characters and coming to know them and love them by the end of the movie.
oh.
You don't love Wanda by the end of this movie. You know,
Mhm.
she's cool, but you don't love her. You don't feel much when Pietro dies, you
Mm-mm.
know? Vision might be the only one that you think, and again, I also wouldn't describe that as like, and that's a little bit of a hack. He gets introduced in like the beginning of the third act, and it's just kind of the end of the movie. So it's a little different there. Um,
Mhm.
But, like, there's no new introduction here that you feel resonates on any level near what the Guardians, does, and obviously, we're talking supporting characters versus main characters. There's a lot going on there, but, uh, I think the point stands, and ultimately, that takes it sub 7 for me.
Okay. I think
I
yeah,
respect
the
that.
first Avengers movie we gave a 7.25. And I think I was already kind of south of the first one.
I
Um,
think the first Avengers movie is better written than this,
yeah.
and
Me
better
too.
performed.
Me
Yeah, I
too.
think just visually it just looks this one just looks better. Like the Hulk looks amazing. I'm not gonna like they've always crushed the Hulk like in the
The Hulk,
MCU.
I
Um,
will say this is a personal preference thing. I think the Hulk looks incredible in terms of realism and just his presence looks incredibly real. Nowhere near green enough for me in this.
yeah, he's more like red. He
Like a
was
brownish. It's
Yeah, well,
weird.
and he was taken over by Wanda whenever he was going through the city, so that
It's
there
true.
was supposed to be red in there. But you're still right. Like even when he's
Even when
just
he's flying
him's
away at the
normal
Avenger at
self,
the end,
yeah, it's
I'm like,
he
give
could
me a
be more green.
vibrant fucking green, man. That's my boy. But that's again just a preference thing. As far as the effects on him, and again the effects throughout the movie, they're fucking good. I
Yeah,
the only one that you could even begin to kind of harp on, and you guys said you didn't really like it. I kind of enjoy it, or the wiggly woos behind Pietro
yeah.
when
I
he
don't
runs.
know.
Oh.
I feel
The
like
Wiggly Woos.
we have an example of Quicksilver in previous X-Men movies where you don't have those and it's done so much better. Those scenes are so much better. Like
Yeah,
it's
Mhm.
I
crazy how
really
much better
thought the
speed is done
effects.
in those movies. And then here it's kind of like I don't know, you wouldn't
I
see
think
it.
they're kind of painted into a corner because of the Foxman Quicksilver. Um,
Like they had to do something different.
I don't think they can copy that, without it being like,
Mhm.
and frankly, there's a better speedster later on in the MCU as well, Makari in the Eternals,
Yeah.
far cooler.
Whew. That's
But
done well. But
I would still put this above, say, Ezra Miller's Flash in the Justice League movies, or and specifically the Flash. Terrible, looks
yeah, I
awful.
mean, I don't know
Um,
what's going on there, man. Yeah, it
yeah,
just doesn't look
but
good.
so that's to say, like, ultimately, I think there's worse. I do think there's better, but that is the place visual effects wise where I could see you making an argument for like, well, there's
Mhm.
this one thing,
Okay.
but I do think it takes me sub 7. Personally, 6.75 sits right with me. Um,
Yeah, that's Thor. Thor 1, Spider-Man 3, and Batman Returns are all at a 6.75. Um, so if you can group all those three movies together, and
yeah,
it
probably,
makes the
probably.
Avengers.
I
No,
might even make
but
that might even make this a 6.5 personally. I think that,
that's still
um,
the Amazing Spider-Man 2. That actually I kind of like that, where it's like the Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's like surprisingly visually stunning.
Gorgeous.
Uh,
Very
the
little.
performances are actually pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
For what characters are given, I think that's actually a pretty comparable movie here.
Yeah, hold on. We about to reach the conclusion that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 might be a better movie. I'm like,
Shit, dude,
it's
it
I
might.
think so. I
it's a
bet.
great looking movie. The performances do stand head and shoulders above the performances in this movie. I do think that movie's overstuffed, which is a much harder thing to overcome than what this movie
Mhm.
has. Like this movie just doesn't. It's very level, but I would say it's operating at a decently high level. You know,
Mhm.
it's not like it's oh, this is shit the whole fucking time. No, it's solid the whole time. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has this up and down thing that gives you this
Mhm.
unsteady, not
I'd
sure how you
s-
feel about it thing.
I'd
I say
say
I like even footing. I like even footing.
yeah, I do because putting it on the same level as Thor is I don't know. I don't know if I could. Um,
I think Thor's going for something much more interesting than this movie.
yeah, I like the top because 625. That's the Donner cut. I think this is better made than the Donner cut.
It's north of that.
So, but I like a 6.5. I think that's a comparable movie there.
All right. And what's that
So
bring our total to?
it would be a 7 flat.
7 flat.
Mm-hmm. Just
7 out of 10. And you know what? I ain't gonna lie to you. On Letterboxd, I had this bad boy at a 3.5 out of 5. So
that's a 7 out of 10.
that's a 7 out of 10, baby.
Would you look at that?
Would you look
And
at that? Would you look at
on
that?
our
You just looked
list,
at it.
a 7 out of 10 would be 29th. Um, out
Interesting.
out of everything. It is right below Spider-Man 3. That's a 708, so barely below, but it is below Spider-Man 3, Batman Returns, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, The Wolverine, Thor, all those. But above The Incredible Hulk, Superman the Donner Cut, Thor the Dark World, Batman Forever are the ones kind of right
That
below.
tracks. That tracks.
So I think it's
Um,
good. It's
That's a
in
good
the
29
spot.
ends up like smack dab in the middle, right? That's
yeah, we have
29
58.
out of 58.
Mhm.
It's mid, like I had said from the
Exactly. It is straight
Okay.
up mid right now.
It's
Uh,
literally mid.
But yeah, with that, we will conclude this episode of the Penny Bloom podcast, and I will thank you all once again for listening. Um, if you would come on back this Friday for Ant-Man. This is our first edition with Paul Rudd. I'm so very excited. I enjoy that movie a great deal,
Mm.
and I cannot wait. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And thank you, Peyton Seiz, for joining us for the very first time, and hopefully not the last.
No, sir. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And you didn't see that coming?